Well, good evening, or you're probably going to see this tomorrow morning, Dr. Vickers. Good to see you, I guess. So my book was, holy crap, Unbroken. My book was Unbroken. I would have to get out of this video to, Laura something was the one that wrote it. So in Unbroken, there's actually quite a bit of science. I didn't think about it until after I read it the second time. Listened to it the second time. And the beginning is kind of slow with science. It talks about the big German blimp. Can't remember, the big hydrogen one. The one that went down, and how it was going around the world. So he actually saw that when he was just a little kid. It flew over Torrance, California, where he was living. And he's the kid that nobody wanted, like the parents' worst nightmare when he was a kid. Absolutely insane, got into a ton of trouble. Let's see. And just kind of I don't know what exactly you want me to talk about. But anyways, the science in the book. So in the book, it talks a little bit about the science of airplanes and how the airplanes, the B-24Ds, 25Ds, I think it's B-25Ds, that he flies in, what Superman was, and then what Green Hornet was that he actually went down in. Their bomb doors weren't, they didn't sit flush with the fuselage, and they also weren't watertight. And so the casualty rating of people that went down in the B-24s was super high, because when they'd hit the water, especially over there in the Pacific Theater where he was stationed, when they'd hit the water, the doors would rip open and they would almost instantaneously sink. Also, it's kind of crazy. So he put on, 12 pounds in a week on his way to go run in the Olympics in 38. I think it was the 38 Olympics. On his way to the 38 Olympics, on the boat, they just stole everything and they ate a ton of food. And he put on like 8 pounds or 12 pounds or something like that on his way over. So that was kind of crazy. So when he crashed, there were 3 men that made it off the boat. There was him, the pilot, and the navigator. I think it was the navigator. Mac, his name was Mac. And Louis and Phil were both injured in the crash, and Mac was not. And Mac kind of went crazy, and he ate their high-calorie chocolate that was supposed to keep him alive, so they didn't have any food. And so they ended up catching little fish and sharks and things like that. And seawater. One of those places was seawater. So the salinity of seawater, it will actually dehydrate you faster by drinking it than by not drinking it. And so they would have to wait till it rained to get water on their boat. And then also the salt being in the boats, with the water constantly in there with them. So the salt would actually create big sores on their bodies, just from the salinity, dehydrating the skin, pulling the water out of the skin, and it would actually create big sores, salt sores on their bodies. Let's see. So when they actually got captured by Japan, and they were there. It gives a bunch of statistics. So like only 1 in like 60 POWs caught in the European theater by the Germans died, and it was like it was an insane amount that died. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like something like 5 or 6 times the amount of people, POWs, that died in the Pacific theater that got captured by the Japanese because they just didn't feed them. So they would survive on rice, barley, seaweed, and then they would bring in a wheelbarrow full of meat once a week or once a month, but like an insanely small amount of meat, and they wouldn't let them have fruit, and so a lot of them developed diseases like scurvy, beriberi, wet and dry beriberi, and then just all kinds of just sicknesses because they were pretty much eating pig slop, and they were getting worked really, really hard. And so in the book, I do remember this part of it. So when Louis got captured, he was 148, 150 something pounds. So he was right in there at like 150, 155 pounds. And when he got rescued, that's the word, rescued, almost 2 years later, he had lost half of his body weight. He was 86 pounds, I think. 86 pounds when they rescued him, because they would feed them on like 500 calories a day and then make them work for like 12 to 18 hours a day of absolutely insanely hard labor. And probably one of my favorite parts in there is just Louis's like mental toughness. He just didn't let anything beat him, and he had a prison guard that they called the Bird that would just mercilessly beat him. He just followed him everywhere, beat him multiple times a day, every day for like 9 months to a year and a half, like every day, and he never lost his brain. What the Japanese were trying to do is they saw it as an insult to be captured, and so they no longer saw them as human, because they had seen them as, oh, you have disgraced your family, so it would be better for you to just die. And so they wouldn't treat them, I mean, they would make them salute a flagpole where nothing was there. They would just do all of these things to break them down mentally, to take away their humanity. Like there was absolutely horrendous things done to these prisoners. But I actually looked up so the article I looked up, let me pull it up. So it's called beriberi heart disease, and it was written by Aaron Berlambique Benchimol, and he's a medical doctor in the Elsevier Journal, the American Heart Journal. Anyways, so what this talks about is beriberi. So what beriberi is a deficiency in vitamin B1, and what the symptoms are is they are like neurological. Like you get to where you can't function because your hands go numb. Your nerves just literally stop working. And so it really, really messes with you. And they have wet beriberi and dry beriberi. Wet beriberi is accompanied by like vomiting and diarrhea. And dry beriberi, you don't have the diarrhea, but you have water retention. And you actually swell up and you look obese almost, because you just hold water because your body can't get rid of it, because your nerves don't work. Also causes paralysis, and the long-term effects. So those are kind of some of the short-term effects. The long-term effects are, it actually messes with your heart, and it'll cause your heart to wear out and die. So a lot of the prisoners there in those Japanese war camps suffered from beriberi. And how you can track beriberi is you don't eat animal products. So like eggs, it's thiamine. So eggs, beef, and things of that nature. Like nowadays it's enriched in flour, but a lot of those animal products are what carry the B vitamins, and because they didn't ever get the meat, they never got any, they were so severely malnourished that's what caused that in that book. And it was something that was easily prevented. A lot of those diseases that those prisoner POWs caught were easily prevented, like scurvy. Louis actually said that he got one piece of fruit the entire 18 months that he was incarcerated, and that was one tangerine that he was given by a friend that was a spy for Japan in California. And he knew him at USC when he was running track there. But I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed the book. It was good to read it again. It's been a couple of years since I've listened to it. But I hope that this is what you were looking for. Thank you for this opportunity.